Hey DF, exclamation point. As Alex said in the special, quote unquote, Sony is eating Microsoft's lunch. Clearly, Microsoft believed, and based on the leaked specs, still believes that AI upscaling has a space in gaming. I mean, who wouldn't, given the popularity and capability of DLSS and XeSS? Why do you think Microsoft didn't utilize this feature set? DirectML just vanished, and now Sony is doing their own version of it, clearly showing that MS was on the right path. Alex?
Why did it disappear? I think the machine learning capabilities of Xbox Series X were not potent enough to make it like a generalizable, you can use this for every single game and every single circumstance kind of thing. I just don't think it was there. And I think the kind of monolithic, I don't know, it's not monolithic, they have competing groups, but like I just think there wasn't enough strategy. I honestly don't think there was enough strategy inside Microsoft to like push for a good machine learning standard within Windows and then subsequently within the Xbox ecosystem to make it so that things like DLSS or XeSS could run under like a generalized environment that was supported by all IHVs. So I think there was a lot of issues there, but primarily on the Xbox side, that the power wasn't there. They said something about it and it had numbers associated with it, but those numbers were not enough. So yeah, and yeah, it's just an extreme validation of the DLSS model that Sony says, yeah, actually that's the way it should be done. And it's very interesting. I'm still very curious what the heck AMD is going to be doing. They're updating FSR 3 now. I don't think it's going to close the quality gap on all areas because I don't think it will. But yeah, I'm curious to see what happens next then.
What do you think about this, John? The concept that Sony is coming to market with machine learning features ahead of Microsoft, and Microsoft is basically, there's so many associations with AI that it is a bit odd, isn't it?
I mean, it's just consoles take a long time to develop.
Yeah.
And while they were thinking about the stuff for Xbox Series X, clearly, as Alex suggests, it simply isn't potent enough to be used in this way. And that's understandable given when these consoles went into development versus when it actually became viable in the PC space with NVIDIA and everything. I mean, the RTX stuff launched in 2018, I think it was.
Yeah.
So these consoles were already deep in development. And even then, the initial stuff was not impressive and people weren't very skeptical, and NVIDIA had to work hard to actually make it into something that was very, very capable and interesting. So by the time the consoles launched, it wasn't there yet, and the system probably can't really use it in any sort of meaningful way. And now, obviously, that is a known thing. So when Sony's designing the PS5 Pro, that would obviously have been a big point for them in building the machine, right? Yeah. They know how popular this is and how capable it is. Right. I think Nintendo does as well, which is why we'll see it with the new Switch. And Microsoft would likely do it if they were building a new machine right now for like launching in the next year or so. But they're not. And I think we will see it, obviously, whenever they do launch a new machine. It's just with the way timing and Windows worked out, there was just no way that they could have really done this properly.
Yeah, I think we really need to stress, once again, how long it takes to make a console. When John and I visited Microsoft in 2020, they basically said that the core design for the Series X silicon was the basic foundational points of what was going to be in it, right down to the fact that it had 52 compute units. All of that was decided in 2016. So there were certain things looking forward, which are very forward-looking in Xbox Series X, specifically the fact that they've got hardware accelerated ray tracing at all. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, when you look at the timescales like that, there is the public perception that NVIDIA were the trailblazers here. And Microsoft were partnered with NVIDIA when they were doing a lot of their initial ray tracing work. But when it came to what they wanted within the Xbox, they made the call that, yes, we want to have hardware accelerated ray tracing, but it needs to fit within our silicon budget. So that's why you don't have the bespoke silicon. And I guess a similar thing applied to machine learning, which was, we don't really know where this is going to go. we do want to have the capabilities, but we are not going to spend a huge amount of silicon area to accommodate that. Right. Which, again, is reflected in the design. You've got those extensions to accelerate machine learning functions, but they aren't that potent. And, if you look at the PS5 Pro, assuming that began development in 2020 when they finished up work on PS5, they probably looked at DLSS2 and thought, this is potentially a game changer. Why do we need to double the size of our GPU if we can have a smaller machine learning based integration in the GPU? Just kind of makes sense, right? So I think that's why Sony is eating Microsoft's lunch, but it is a bit unfortunate. But I think John, Alex, when we met Phil Spencer at Gamescom, I think my message at the time was, please be more radical with your next console. And I think hopefully that will be borne out, especially when they're talking about the biggest generational leap, which doesn't need to be teraflops, clearly.
Right.
There's a lot more of a sort of more holistic view of what a console could be.
We went from bits to teraflops. What's next?
Yeah,
Tops.
What's next?
Tops. Yeah.
Tops.